poisoning the blood of our country. All over the world, they're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia. Mexico sends its people. They're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. They don't speak the language. They don't have the culture. These are stone cold killers. They'll walk into your kitchen. They'll cut your throat. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
Haiti has a tremendous AIDS problem. Many of those people will probably have AIDS, and they're coming into our country.
They took the criminals out of Caracas, and they put them along your border, and we have to live with these animals. Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. They're rough people, in many cases from jails, prisons, from mental institutions, insane asylums. You know, insane asylum, that's Silence of the Lambs stuff. I told them not to let the Syrians in because we have no idea who they are. They could be ISIS, and they might not be, but they could be ISIS.
Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed. It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me.
In case you're wondering whether there's any racism in the Trump administration, consider this wild fact. So you know how they've basically stopped anybody from coming to the United States claiming refugee status? Well, they've decided to put an asterisk on that, and they're going to allow 8,000 South African Afrikaners to come here as refugees. Those are white people, by the way. So why are the white South Africans allowed to be classified as refugees and come to the United States, but a refugee from El Salvador is not allowed to, or a refugee from Panama, or a refugee from Peru? Why aren't they allowed? Well, I'll give you it's one thing. They're brown, those South Africans are white. There is very little evidence that these Afrikaners are being persecuted at home. The government's saying, we're not doing anything. No one else seems to be able to confirm that fact. Yet the Trump administration is going to leapfrog those 8,000 Afrikaners into the United States in front of everybody else. Now, I would assume that all of the Trump supporters who are against all refugees coming to the United States are going to be outraged about this, right? Right?
Trump called Mexican refugees criminals, said they bring drugs and crime. But when it comes to white South Africans, suddenly it's real refugees. If that doesn't scream hypocrisy, nothing does. Today we are reacting to how US is welcoming white South Africans while Latino are being deported left and right. Like and please subscribe so you won't miss any video we upload. Let's go into the video.
These are the first group of white South Africans who've been fast-tracked into refugee status. The Trump administration made a big thing about cracking down on immigration and suspending the refugee resettlement program. So questions are being asked on why has such an exception been made for this group of people?
White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa.
Billionaire Elon Musk grew up in apartheid South Africa. He's one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, and he claims that there is a genocide of white people happening. South Africa's foreign minister says that there has been no land confiscation, and Donald Trump's claims that murders are happening in large numbers is not backed by any police data.
Well, aren't these just the healthiest looking refugees I've ever seen? The most nourished, the most well kept, the cleanest, most well dressed refugees I've ever seen. I've never seen such stunningly healthy, good looking refugees in my life. Thank God America offered them refuge from South Africa. Thank God. They look like they could not have even stood another day there. Thank God.
Healthiest looking refugees? That's not even a shade. That's straight up exposing the game. People fleeing actual violence in Central America show up with trauma and poverty, and they get cages, but these ones show up looking like tourists, and somehow they are victims. Nah, this is white privilege with a passport.
Told you MAGA does not know what they believe in. Today we make everything about race. Donald Trump got rid of the refugee program. Rid of it. Dunzo. No more people in our country. And MAGA's like, yeah. Even the brown people, the brown Latinos for Trump, yeah. But then the Trump administration has decided to let in white South Africans. And it's not even about race. They're making it about race. They have to be white. You can come to the U.S. if you're white. We will roll out the red carpet. We will fly our planes over there and buy you plane tickets. And you know how wrong this is? The Episcopal Church just announced we're done helping refugees with the Trump administration. Why? Because you're allowing white South Africans in and not Afghans, not Venezuelans running away from corruption. And stay tuned, more white South Africans are coming. And MAGA will be cheering them on.
This is for the Americans. If you're not an American, feel free to watch, but please try and get it to the Americans. My name is Bianca van Wyk, born in South Africa, live in South Africa. Today you will be welcoming the so-called white Afrikaans refugees. They are there based on an offer made to them, which I must say was informed by disinformation about South Africa. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on who Americans think they are receiving. Okay, you are not getting successful, professional, white, middle-class South Africans that are fleeing South Africa. The people you are getting are the people that believe that there is discrimination against them based on their race. Keep in mind, we live in the most unequal country in the world. We have, for instance, 70% of agricultural land and agricultural holdings are owned by white South Africans. 62 to 68% of top leadership positions in corporate are filled by white males. There is a huge salary disparity between white South Africans and the rest of the population. And there are a number of other indicators which shows you that this story of discrimination based on race is false. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you will get certain so-called refugees that have experienced crime. However, in South Africa, no one is exempt. These people that you are welcoming assume because they're white, they should not experience crime. The people most affected by crime in South Africa happen to be black people that live in poverty. So as you open your doors and welcome people, and you're going to get a lot of information and disinformation from these people, please do keep that in mind. Oh, I also would like to say all the best and good luck to the Americans.
Population in South Africa is 90% black, but black people in South Africa only own 4% of privately owned land in the entire country. But somehow Trump is convinced that these 59 white South African refugees deserve to be housed and fed on the taxpayer dollar in the United States because they were being discriminated against in their home country. It makes me so fucking sick to see that in the same week that a 16-year-old girl had her face slammed into the concrete by ICE because she was brought here as a minor into the United States by her parents, that our taxpayer dollars are simultaneously being spent on an expedited refugee process for white people in South Africa, where they only make up 10% of the population, but they own 96% of the fucking land. Are you kidding me? And their justification is that they believe that white people are being genocided in South Africa. So all of a sudden they have a problem with genocide. Meanwhile, the United States is literally funding a genocide in the West Bank. And for the record, that's not even happening in South Africa. It's been disproven and debunked multiple times. And it's just Elon Musk spreading right-wing bullshit, white supremacist bullshit, as usual. That's all this is. It's just white supremacist bullshit all over again. I'm so tired.
Them white South Afrikaners, they found a lick and took it. Because I'm seeing a lot of comments like this saying that, yo, you guys better watch out. These people are not even farmers. You know how many comments I've seen that said that from white South Africans as well as black South Africans? This is going to be interesting. Because from what I'm hearing, they already got their citizenship. You know the hurdles you have to go through here to get your citizenship, but they already do. I'm telling you, I don't know what kind of connection Elon Musk have, but That money is getting him somewhere. But anyways, it'll be interesting to see what they're gonna do, because if they're all supposedly farmers, how I'm just thinking what kind of job they're gonna have. Y'all, America is not the America it used to be. Like, people are really struggling over here to buy eggs. They're gonna find out you really gotta work hard for your money. But you know what? We ain't gotta say nothing else. So much can be said, but we ain't gotta say nothing else. They're just gonna have to find out.
Now look at this. Americans on the streets, and the US government is handing out refugee status to white South Africans who are even not in a danger. It's not that they care about refugees, it's that they care about which refugees. If they are white, it's compassion. If they are brown, it's illegal.
What's your reaction to this?
Well, we've raised our own concern because those people who are being enticed to go to the United States do not fit the definition of a refugee. A refugee is someone who has to leave their country out of fear of political persecution, religious persecution, or economic persecution. And
that's what the United States says they're undergoing in South Africa. That's why they've opened the door for them.
Yes, and they don't fit that bill. They don't fit that description. And I had a conversation with President Trump on the phone, and he said, what's happening down there? And I said, President, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true. And I added to him, I said, we were well taught by Nelson Mandela and other iconic leaders like Oliver Tambo on how to continue to build a united nation out of the diverse groupings that we have in South Africa. We're the only country on the continent where the colonizers came to stay, and we have never driven them out of our country. So they are staying, and they're making great progress. It's a fringe grouping that does not have a lot of support, that is anti-transformation and anti-change, that would actually prefer to see South Africa going back to apartheid type of policies. And I said to him, I would never do that. I learned at the feet of Nelson Mandela, and we intend to proceed with the implementation of our constitutional architecture. And I thought in my conversation with him early in the morning at 4 o'clock South African time, he understood that. And I said, I'd like to come and meet him so that we can discuss this matter further. So those people who have fled are not being persecuted. They are not being hounded. They are not being treated badly. And they are leaving ostensibly because they don't want to embrace the changes that are taking place in our country in accordance with our Constitution. So we think that the American government has got the wrong end of the stick here, but we'll continue talking to them.
So a face-to-face meeting is coming up. Is Elon Musk invited when you have that face-to-face meeting?
Well, I don't know. They will determine whether Elon Musk is part of it or not. I will go with my own South African delegation.
If you're a white South African and you claim to be a refugee, then you're this guy. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you don't have the right to criticize any given race-based laws or the unemployment or violent crime statistics in South Africa. You have the constitutional right to do so, and you know what? Sometimes I do too. You are also welcome to immigrate to another country based on any one or more of the above reasons. That is fine. But calling yourself a refugee, I mean, come on, man. Do yourself a favor and just Google images, actual refugees. You're this guy.
So listen, before I go to sleep, I need to tell you guys this, okay? So I chatted with someone from South Africa who is Afrikaner today, and who is going to be applying to come to the United States. And she was trying to explain her plight because she was seeing that a lot of people do not want Afrikaners over here as refugees. Okay? And I'm going to strictly say that. They don't want Afrikaners. We don't want Afrikaners over here as refugees with refugee status. Okay? So she continues to explain herself, and she does not mention anything about genocide. She doesn't mention anything about someone taking her land from her. She doesn't mention any of that as to the reason why she plans on coming to America with her children. This is the reason that she gave, which is not a qualification for a refugee status, okay? She said that she couldn't find a job. Not only did she say she couldn't find a job, but she said she couldn't find a job because of her race. She believed she couldn't find a job because of her race. And she also believed that her children did not have a future in South Africa. That doesn't qualify to be a refugee. That honestly does not qualify. Do you know how many people in the United States of America can't find work? Do you know how many people just lost their jobs in the United States of America because of this administration? I mean, do they have refugee status? Can they fly anywhere and be like, oh, okay, well then, give me food, clothing, shelter, and everything, and your government needs to pay for it because we're refugees because we can't find a job here in the United States of America. Now, I'm not gonna lie. She was like, I don't have anything against my people in South Africa, nor do I, and I'm not racist. I'm just Afrikaner, and I just want to find a job. But I said, but you're not a refugee, not because not because you can't find a job. Simply because you can't find a job, you think you're a refugee? If that's the case, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't make you a refugee. She said nothing about any of the quote unquote genocide, any of the, oh my gosh, all she said was she couldn't find a job. That's it. And the White House is allowing this.
Shame on the United States. Shame. Shame on Donald Trump and his whole administration. So check this out, y'all. White South Africans granted refugee status by the Trump administration. Now let that sink in. Look at these people. These people are the descendants of the colonizers and the apartheid rulers in South Africa. So the government over there is using their constitution to help give land back to the native Africans. They're buying land from South Africans who own 70% of all the land. And you go, how did they do that? They stole it. Then you got Elon Musk and Donald Trump talking about there's a genocide happening. There's no genocide. The only genocides that are happening right now are in Gaza, the Congo, South Sudan. Those are really genocides, and those are really refugees. Then you got Trump, remember, talking about they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, when he's referring to Haitians. That's not happening either, and it wasn't happening. They have real status to be here, to work. But these guys, these Afrikaners, these poor farmers, they just, for whatever reason, can't make money in South Africa. They haven't been on their job. You notice there ain't no millionaires and billionaires Afrikaners coming to the United States as refugees. It's the poors. They got money for wars but can't feed the poor. And I'm talking to you, white Americans, especially the ones who are in the lower class or poor. This really affects you. These Afrikaners are about to come over here, get free housing, free medical, they're going to get jobs, they're going to get education, and meanwhile, a lot of you are going to continue to live in rural areas in your trailers, in your apartments, and you're going to lose your jobs because of Doge. These guys are here to get all the resources. America, that's a shame, y'all. That is a shame.
So let's get this straight. A Latino family learning from a cartel violence? Denied. A Haitian mother escaping political chaos? Blocked. A white South Africans are saying, I don't like my government? Granted asylum. This ain't about laws or safety. It's about race. Trump played his base again and exposed just how broken the system really is. Like, share, and subscribe if this hypocrisy needs to be called out daily. Bye bye. See you to the next one. Wish you peace and love.